see what we have. So I've cut out the 0.5 inch, which is 0.25 from the center front line. So I ironed out my placket right now, and I'll be explaining to you how I did that. So this placket, the whole length altogether is 4 inches. Okay, 4 inches. Everything here, if I open up the seams I press in, is 4 inches. So you just go ahead and fold in 0.5 as you can see, and fold them this way. Okay, so the whole length of this is 9.5 times 2. Then I added a little thing for shortage. So if you look at it, I just want to match it up so you can see it's equal to the length of the placket, and just a little, about 0.5 above it. So we'll be using this to sew this placket. Make sure you interface. Okay, so I used hairstay to interface because this is a paper lace. All right, so now I'm done cutting. The next thing I want to do is to come into the dovetail. You can see the triangle, the snip of triangle I made. I'll just follow the line and cut to the square. Okay, so I'll just follow the line gently. Please don't cut out. So okay, this is a lace fabric, and okay, so you can see that. Then I'll come over here as well and follow the triangle as well to the. So I'm just trying to be very careful here. Okay, so don't exceed the line. Can you see? You don't need to exceed the line. So the next thing we are going to do is to spread apart. Step will be to spread it apart because we want to sew our placket right now. So here you can see me spreading it. So as I'm spreading it, it's forming a triangle. You can see the triangle. Okay, so I will just hold down the triangle it has formed with a pin at that point of my placket. What we are trying to do here is to make sure it's on a horizontal line for us to sew. Okay, sew in the placket. So I'll just hold it down as it formed the triangle. I'm going to hold it down there. This one, as you can see. So make sure you spread it to be on a straight line, because that is how we are going to sew in the placket right now. So this is the easiest method of making your placket. So all right, so yeah, we can see I spread everything across. So I come in with the placket. Make sure you get the midpoint of your placket. This is my midpoint of the placket. I put them together. I open up the placket at the midpoint. Okay, so what I have right here is the right side of my placket. Okay, so I'll come in with my right side of my, let me just get the midpoint. I'll secure it with my pin, because if you don't get the midpoint, it's actually going to be difficult. So this is my midpoint, which I've secured with my pin. This is the right side. This is the right side. I'll simply push in this to this at the center line. Note that where we have the snip of triangle is the center line. Okay, so the seam allowance, you have to open it up. You can see how I'm opening it up. Okay, so let me actually open it up before I get the midpoint. I don't want to miss the midpoint, because if you miss it, it's going to affect the way you sew your placket. So I open up the seams, can you see, and lay it on this. So I'm going to secure with my pin at the center front now, to the center front of the snip of triangle, or the center front of the dress. So I'll be going over to my machine right now to sew. So I'm going to sew right away. Okay, I'm pinning. Okay, I'm done pinning as I spread it. So I'm going to sew right on top of the chalk markings I made. So I'll drop my presser foot. And I'm sewing right on top of my pins, so you don't need to remove your pins, and you make sure you spread out your plackets. So I'll keep sewing right on the chalk line, sewing like that on the chalk line. And here our backs. Right, so now I'm done sewing. I'm going to take off my pins. Okay, I'm taking off my pins and I'm going to turn what I have here. I'm going to turn it to the other side. Okay, so you can see it. Okay, so I want to press it down. I'm going to give it a good press, or you can just, since we've already ironed it, we can just go ahead and sew. Can you see? So I'm going ahead to sew once again. I'm sewing right on the chalk line. So note that everything we are doing here is on the chalk line. Can you see? So I'll just drop it right on the chalk line and top stitch on top of it. So you can secure with your pin if you wish to do so, so you don't have issues, you know, turning and all that. So I'll just secure with my pin. In a way, I can also sew on top of my pins, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and pin, and then top stitch neatly. Okay, so I'll just use my hand and arrange the rest of it. I'll start to sew now by top stitching on top. So I'm going to top stitch on top. So I want you to note that the part we are sewing now is the part that is in front. So that means your sewing need to be, your top stitching need to be very, very accurate and neat. So I just take my time and get it accurately done and neat. Okay, so I'll just take off my pin so I get this accurately done. So I'll keep sewing till I get to the end of it, and I'll back stitch at that point. Alright, so I've gone ahead to give it a good press. So I'm taking off my pins right now. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is to form the placket. So in forming the placket, this is how to go about it. You can see how I kept the placket. So remember the midline or the midpoint. So here automatically use the midpoint. So I'm going to trim off what I have here. The excess I have here, I'll just level it to the neckline. I'll also do the same for this, to the neckline. So everything is equal right now. So since we have it equal right away, you can now determine where you have the midline. Can you see that? So I'm going to form my placket this way. So the easiest way to form it after you have sewn it on the straight cut is to merge them together. Can you see? So I've made them together on the neckline. You see how I did it? Okay. So this is actually thick, but I'll just secure it with my pin. So once you have done that, you now come over to where we have the center, the down part on the center front. Okay, so I'm going to take off these stones. Okay, so I've taken off these stones. Okay, so I'll just make sure they overlap each other like that. I'll keep overlapping it till I get to the end. So at the end of it, I'll push, and then I'll fold in what I have here. Okay, so you can see what our placket looks like. So you just push it in to form a neat V. Can you see that? So I'm going to sew down the placket. I'll still hold it the way it is. I'll sew it down so it can come up like about 1 inch from here to here. So I'm just trying to gauge it. So make sure you don't have any stone. Okay, so I'm sewing slowly because the lace I'm working with is actually thick. So, and make sure you sew on a straight line as well. So I'll just follow the shape of that V shape. Okay, so I'm just sewing very slowly because what I have here is actually very thick. It's a paper lace, so if you are working with an ordinary or another fabric, it won't be this thick. Okay, so I'm just following the V shape to form the placket. So once I reach to each end, I'll raise my presser foot. Okay, so I'll raise my presser foot and return back to where I started, as you can see. Okay, so that is how to go about your placket. So if I open up now, you can see the placket. So I can now put my press pins on my placket. Okay, all right, so I'll give it a good press. I will now proceed to the continuation sewing of the gown.